To the stock market. And we kind of have a theme for the stock market. We wrapped up the regular season at least. And so the common theme is buy or sell. This team had a disappointing season.
Okay.
I try to pick some that schools I thought you could make a case either way. And one of them does have a caveat because they could potentially be playing postseason ball.
Like
Playoff ball.
It's probably Texas.
No, it's Miami.
Oh, okay. Are we going off preseason expectations? I mean, we really gotta lock in our definitions.
It's really
here.
your specific preseason expectations for this team. And if you want to also look at just kind of the general consensus with this teams, we did previews for all of these, so we kind of had the general, over-under for these teams, kind of what the general thought going into these season were for these teams. And now we kind of have seen how it's played out, so we can give our thoughts there. First one, and this is one that's a little difficult, but I still want to ask it because I'm intrigued by it. Buy or sell, Miami had a disappointing regular season. You hit 10 wins, you go 10-2, you get the huge non-conference win against Notre Dame, but you lose 2 rough ACC games to Louisville and SMU, and you don't even make the ACC championship game in a year where Clemson's terrible. Personally, I think it's a disappointing regular season. I get you're possibly or likely going to make the college football playoffs, but still, just to not even make the ACC championship game in a year where you really should have run the show as the best team, it's disappointing to me.
Yeah, I'll also buy that. I imagine Miami fans would probably trade that Notre Dame win for the 2 losses. I imagine they'd rather be 11-1 with the 1 loss being against Notre Dame, and you're in the playoffs. You're probably, you're going to the ACC championship. You're undefeated in the ACC, and you're probably ranked at like 7, and Notre Dame is 5, somewhere in there. Or maybe somewhere like in that range. You're solidly in the top 10.
Yeah.
You're high enough that I don't think you're worried about losing the ACC championship to Virginia or whoever would be in there and dropping out. So you're in the playoffs. But I think that not being solidly in the playoffs after the investments you made, especially in Carson Beck, he was supposed to be the quarterback that was going to get you there. You bring in the new defensive coordinator, you make all the investments on the defensive side of the ball. You've got Ruben Bain, who's incredible, and you get that Notre Dame win, and you think that we figured it out, the investments worked out, we spent the money, time to make the money, got to spend money to make money, and it didn't pan out. You're not solidly in the playoffs. It's going to take a miracle, I think, to get you in. I'm going to buy that it was a disappointing season.
I'm selling.
Sure.
Their preseason win total was 9.5. They hit the over. They aren't in the playoff only because the committee and much of the public doesn't think they are better than some of the teams above them. And I know their fan base and them internally surely think they're better than Notre Dame and should be in the playoff right now. It shouldn't be even really a conversation. So I think in-house, I don't think they would view it as a disappointing regular season.
Because they feel like they're getting screwed.
Yes.
I think that's a fair take. That's a good point. Next one. Arizona State had a disappointing season. You went to the playoffs last year. You were the preseason favorite, I believe, to win this conference. And you go 8-4. I believe that was the record. If someone could double check that for me.
8-4.
8-4, perfect.
Were they? I didn't think they were preseason favorites. I thought it was like Iowa State.
They were potentially tied with a couple
were
teams. They were
just behind Kansas State and Texas Tech.
Yeah.
550 to 600.
So not favorites, but in that top tier. Yeah. And you go 8-4. You lose your QB for the season. Jordan Tyson doesn't really play. You lose the non-conference game at Mississippi State. Agree or disagree? This was a disappointing season. Sanders.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think it was a disappointing season, and maybe that's just because I'm viewing it through the perspective of Kenny Dillingham, and I just feel like he's not going to be I'm sure that he wanted to be more successful, but I also feel like he's an optimistic guy and also a realistic guy, and I think he's going to realistically understand that losing Sam Leavitt. I think that I would take the Sam Leavitt injury into whether or not the season was disappointing or not. I think that goes into my expectations. I think that that's one of those things me and JP disagree about, whether or not you can change your expectations mid-season. I'd be interested, if a player gets hurt mid-season, do you think that changes your expectations, JP?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but other things you don't think you should change your expectations in mid-season?
I still think your preseason expectations factor in if a player gets hurt. Because, like, you're disappointed still that your preseason expectations weren't reached. Now, there is a really good reason for it. But, like, any year that A&M's QB got hurt, I still was really disappointed with how the season went down. Now, I knew there was a good reason it happened. But it doesn't mean I wasn't disappointed.
When Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles on the third snap of the season, I think you are right to say that you could change your expectations on how the rest of the season could go. But I do agree with Jack. You are still have every right to be disappointed that you didn't get to have the season you thought you were going to have.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm still going to, I think, say
that it was
not a disappointing
season.
Yes, it was an appointing season.
Is that? No,
it's a term. It definitely is.
Yep. Okay, cool. Losing to your rival sucks, but you get the win over Texas Tech, albeit against a backup quarterback. But I mean, that was a big win. Texas Tech is right now a top. Are they number 5 right now or
Probably.
AP, wherever they sit? It's a big win.
Our ballot, they're 5.
Yeah. You do lose a couple unfortunate ones. You lose the close one to State. You lose to Utah, kind of get dominated, but you don't have Leavitt for that game. Lose to Houston in weird fashion, and lose the season closer to Arizona. But I'm going to sell that this was a disappointing season. I think that there was always an expected regression, losing the engine of last year's team in Scattaboo. And I think that the Big 12 with Texas Tech and Iowa State returning so much, I think there was expectations that y'all were not going to win the Big 12 again this year. I didn't expect it. Did I pick? I may have picked them, so I did expect it. But I'm still not going to call it. That's hypocritical. I'm not going to get into that. I think
Sanders being very generous. We'll just say that.
I am.
Okay. I'm going to buy. I know you had the injuries and stuff, but I think if you asked any fan, they'd be disappointed with how the season turned out. I think they still have plenty of optimism and faith in the program under Kenny Dillingham. But this particular season, I think they're disappointed.
Yeah, I fully disagree with you, Sanders. I think it is a massively disappointing season. To lose the game the way you did to Mississippi State, massively disappointing. To lose to Connor Weigman in Houston when Sam Leavitt starts and plays pretty much the entire game. At home.
Well, Houston didn't lose on the road.
Yeah.
Massively disappointing. To lose to your rival, again, at home, Arizona. I don't care who your quarterback is in this game, is disappointing. This is a team that had a lot of high promise, potential high praise coming to this season. Sam Leavitt was a potential first-round draft pick. Jordan Tyson was a top 10 draft pick. I get it, you lost Scatabo, but that's still 2 top 10 draft picks in the Big 12. You feel like you should make a difference, and you didn't. And even when Sam Leavitt got hurt, prior to that, he wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a massively disappointing season.
Sure. All right, let's move on.
You know they play at A&M next year?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Second time in a decade we've played them. They were like out of conference Power 4 in like 2016, 2017. TCU had a disappointing season, buy or sell. They also went 8-4. This one may be more for my case since I was pretty high on them.
Yeah.
But they had a great quarterback, someone that people thought would really be the engine of that offense, and he had a good year. But he also had some kind of dud performances in that passing attack and offense, had some dud performances in some bigger games. Buy or sell, they had a disappointing season. I'll start. I'm going to buy, and that really is due to personal expectations and the high hopes I had for this team. I'm personally pretty disappointed with how it went. It's really not a terrible season or anything. I had high hopes. I had them making the playoffs, for goodness sakes.
I'm right on the fence. I'm gonna buy. I think maybe you feel like you should have won more of the games that you coming into the season knew were going to be against good competition in Arizona State, Kansas State, and Iowa State, and you went 0 for 3 in all 3 of them. 2 of them were on the road. And so I think that is kind of disappointing. I thought the way they capitalized off the momentum of the beginning of the season being standalone Monday night against North Carolina, dominating the way they did, capitalized by beating a playoff team last year in SMU 2 weeks later, was really, really remarkable. But they didn't capitalize off that momentum and build on it the rest of the season. I thought Hoover underperformed in the brightest lights. That was a stat we brought up a couple times where his biggest games of the year, he just threw picks. That was the case in all 4 of their losses. So I'm going to buy that it was disappointing for Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frogs.
I'll also buy.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, what was their biggest Big 12 win, real quick?
Their biggest Big 12 win, I'd argue, is
Baylor.
it was technically over a ranked Houston.
Sure. That is their big. I mean, you watched that game. That was their biggest win. Like, that was a huge moment for that team to get that win.
I mean, you could also. I mean, I'm not gonna. They did beat Cincinnati, who JP made the point that a week before Cincinnati played BYU.
Well, now they're 4 weeks removed from that.
Yeah,
they were 3 weeks removed from that game.
But at one point, them and
Sure.
BYU were tied for odds to win the Big 12. At one point.
This is true.
Next one. Buy or sell. Michigan had a disappointing season. Finishes 9-3. You lose at Oklahoma. You lose to USC. You lose to Ohio State. You went over your win total, but you lost all your biggest games. So how does that kind of wonder how the fan base feels about that? I guess I wonder how they feel about how Bryce Underwood looked in year 1. Probably not the start to his career they hoped for. But y'all's thoughts, buy or sell?
Well, actually, the preseason win total was 9.5.
Oh, it was. So they went under. Wow.
A game under. I would personally also buy. Pessimistic here.
Sure.
I
y'all
sold on Miami, but still.
To say, so far, Jack has thought every team has had this. Did anyone play well this year, Jack?
A&M had a pretty exciting season.
I thought State
Pretty
had
appointing season.
Pretty appointing season. State did.
Well, there's something above appointing because it's disappointing. Appointing is like you don't think it was like an overachievement, but it was an underachievement. So then it's like a something.
I've never heard the word appointing used in this context.
Not disappointing, you could say.
Yeah, sure.
No, I think they did have a disappointing season in Michigan. That is, Bryce was underwhelming in a lot of aspects. I wish that we were, if I'm a Michigan fan, I wish that we were more competitive on the road in the 2 big games against OU and USC. You weren't really competitive whatsoever in those games. The roster building was significant. If Andrew Marsh doesn't come on and like kind of give them some kind of push later in the season, they have nothing offensively when Justice Haynes goes down. And so the Ohio State game could have been even worse, even though Marsh didn't have a single catch in it. So for me, I think there was a massive opportunity to take advantage of an elite true freshman, and we didn't in the biggest moments. We were able to do what we expected to do, and maybe I'd argue you would have expected to do with whoever the other quarterback was that was competing with Underwood. I don't recall at the time, but I think you would have expected to go 9-3. I don't think you would have hoped you would have been more competitive and maybe win one of them with Bryce, considering how much you paid him.
Sure. I'm going to go with it was an appointing season, so I'm actually going to sell this one. I just think coming into the season, we knew the offensive limitations they were going to have. And, yeah, maybe you wanted Bryce to look a little better, but we talked about how they didn't have the weapons this year and that hopefully next year was going to be the year where they would go into the transfer portal and maybe also recruit some legit X-factor weapons to help Bryce Underwood. And that just wasn't there this year, and so I'm not necessarily disappointed that they didn't pull a rabbit out of a hat, I guess.
Mikey Keene.
I am going to buy. No Michigan legends were made this year. They lost to Ohio State at home, and I think that and you didn't have the type of season that Ohio State had last year, where they go 10-2, they lose that game, make the playoffs. I'm going to go with disappointing because no Michigan legends were made.
Bo Pix just made an appearance.
Oh, dear. Was it Mikey Sanders still?
No.
Bobby Wagner.
I threw it right to
Bobby
him.
Wagner.
Here you can watch it before we move on to the next one.
Let's see. Nix is trying to read an over route, and Bobby Wagner is just standing there, and he throws it right to him. It looked like he was potentially trying to throw that away, and then he's already released the ball by the time Wagner is. Yeah, he just doesn't see Wagner. That's terrible.
It's tough.
That's yeah. That's not going to help your public perception. Doing that on national television.
Yeah, because everyone's tuned into this game because it's close. Because the Commanders are like that.
Yep.
Next one, Missouri had a disappointing season.
I can go ahead and start.
Well, just quick, they went
go ahead.
8-4. They finished 9-3.
8-4.
8-4. That's right. They went 8-4.
I'm gonna go ahead and buy. I'm gonna go ahead and start. Eli Drinkwitz did not get his big win, and continues to be Walmart brand James Franklin, which made the rumors that he might end up at Penn State even funnier. But I just think that another season of bringing in talent, Bo Prabula looked great as a dual threat to start the season, and that didn't pan out the way you wanted it to. But you don't get the win you wanted, and that's with Ahmad Hardy. You go and get Kevin Coleman, you bring him in from Mississippi State to replace Luther Burden. It just doesn't work out the way you want it to. Were they top 10 at one point to start the season? I know they've been there in previous years. I can never remember if they made it this year.
They might have gotten really close, but they were in the teens. They were not ranked to start the season.
Sure.
And their preseason win total was 6.5.
Really?
Really.
Let me go pull up. Like I said, I'm already going to buy. I'm just curious if where they ascended to.
So this is a very appointing season for you then, JP.
I would say so, yes. I think this was a not disappointing season.
Yeah.
To get to the win total again, to have Drink in conversations for the LSU and Florida job is astounding. With the way that they were playing this year, you were not guaranteed Ahmad Hardy was going to take over like he did. You were not guaranteed that Bo Prabula was going to pop to the degree that he did.
Till his ankle popped.
Till his ankle popped, because Bo was just a backup at Penn State, so there's nothing proven there. Your best receiver was also a transfer in Kevin Coleman. And then looking at their schedule in the preseason, it was hosting South Carolina, hosting Bama, hosting A&M, and at OU. Those are your 4 ranked games. And then I know we thought in the season maybe the border war against Kansas, or against Arkansas, I should say. No, against Kansas. And then the state line war against Arkansas might have been competitive. You also have to go at Auburn in those games. I know we were high on Mississippi State, so I would imagine one of us took the under on this. I know Pate talked about it a lot in the preseason of this is one of his favorite overs over the 6.5, but I think to win 8 games, be competitive really in a few others, and the
Alabama game comes to mind specifically.
The
win
total in the
competitive.
preseason being 6.5, I'd take this as a not disappointing season.
Yeah, I agree with you, JP. I would sell it being a disappointing season, which is not something I thought I would do, because I remember kind of scoffing when Eli Drinkwitz was like trying to be like, the issue with right now is everyone expects to make the playoffs, and I was like, okay, but you are at Mizzou, and Mizzou probably expects to not yearly be in the playoffs, but I think they kind of feel like they're at the point under you, and you've done enough, credit to your own success, where you should eventually break through and make the playoffs. But then, looking back, I'm like, okay, this probably wasn't the year to really expect that.
Go ahead. Highest Missouri got was 14. They hosted number 8 Alabama and lost by 3. 2 weeks later, they were 15 and go to number 10 Vanderbilt and lose by 7. And they get smoked by A&M, and then they got re-ranked before they played Oklahoma, and that was it.
It's a tough stretch. The one that really hurts is the Vandy game, because you really feel like you outperform them, but your QB goes down and Vandy escapes. But I'll sell. It was an appointing season. And then this goes to our last one, which is a bit of a veer from the appointing or disappointing seasons, and it's Ryan Williams will play for Alabama next season. He didn't.
I must have missed something, because I don't know why this is a controversial question.
I mean, it's not that controversial. Just there's a lot of he didn't have the season I'm sure he hoped he would.
Yeah.
He was the 3rd best wide receiver on his team.
Behind Jeremy Bernard and Horton.
I would say Horton, especially down the stretch, had a bigger impact when I was watching games. he got used out of the slot a ton this year. I saw that last night, which is interesting enough because Ryan Grubb was at Seattle last year, and he used out of the slot a ton last year. JSN, and then JSN's kind of really exploded, being pushed out wide. But he also just wasn't on the field a ton, or always in critical situations. Last night, he never was the target in big situations. If they were going to run a key screen play, or I don't know, a key pass, it was never going to him. So I just wonder if he personally is kind of ready to get out and move on. I don't have any I don't have a report to back this. It's just something I was noticing.
I'm gonna sell. I will buy that he will play for Bama next year. I'm gonna chalk all that up to injuries. I know he was injured for parts of the season. And it was ankle. Is that right? I don't know.
I'm not a Bama fan.
Okay.
So.
Injuries.
Yeah, you would know the best out of us.
Dealt with injuries all season, and even if he was playing, may not have been entirely healthy. So I'm going to attribute some of it to that, and then I'll also bet on him recognizing that Alabama's wide receiver depth chart was just very talented, and that he can be the next man up next year. Jeremy Bernard, I assume, will go to the draft. He's a junior.
Correct.
I don't know what Horton's status is. But, I mean, if I'm the Alabama wide receiver coach, I'm pitching the Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Jamison Williams, those years where they had guy after guy after guy, or you look at Ohio State and you had guys who have to ride the bench and wait for their opportunity to really step up.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm trying to pitch to Ryan Williams.
I do think that is a little hard to pitch when he kind of was already the guy kind of for a stretch last season, and was supposed to be the guy this season, and then had to take a back seat.
But he wasn't the guy down the stretch. He was the guy to start the year.
But he still had his moment in the spotlight, and it's a wide receiver, so probably a diva.
As most wide receivers are.
I'll also buy just because I think it's more likely than he doesn't. But I could if we get an on-3 tweet that says Ryan Williams is in the transfer portal, that's not going to be a mind-blowing moment.
But I don't really know that there's anyone who that would blow my mind.
Jeremiah Smith entered the transfer portal. I would be pretty mind-blown.
Yeah, Kamario Taylor, that would blow my mind.
Yeah. That would crush your soul. Blow your mind and crush your soul.
Yep, it would. Oh, dear.
I will say,
I'm getting sad thinking about it.
If you do decide to hop into the transfer portal, Ryan Williams, we do have your wide receiver coach that recruited you. He's chilling at A&M right now. So if you do want to come wear the maroon and white, I think we'd be happy to have you.
It's burgundy and white, but
if
you do want to come wear the maroon and white, feel free to come down and start.
Yeah, what quarterback would he rather play for? Marcel Reed or Kamario Taylor? The answer is Kamario Taylor.
I wouldn't guarantee Marcel's a starter next year.
Did you see Miles O'Neal throw the football?
You could get a big transfer.
DJ Lagway.
I mean, come on home, DJ Lagway. I'll let it be a QB competition. I'm down.
JP, we have both bought. What will you do?
I will also buy. I think it's a bunch of baloney. I don't really care. I would buy that he had a disappointing season. The dude was a cover athlete for the video game.
I almost made it that, but that was I almost made it Ryan Williams had a disappointing season, but I was like, that's the most layup.
Yeah,
buy and sell ever.
Now apparently becoming a cover athlete thing, which it would have been funny had Jeremiah Smith won the Heisman. It would be you either win the Heisman or you have a terrible season if you're the college football cover athlete. As last year it was Donovan Edwards and Travis Hunter. Hunter won the Heisman. Edwards was terrible. Quinn Ewers was also on there. So mid-season, he made the playoff.
How much of the Ryan Williams discussion do you think is changed? Do y'all buy into the fact that he was a kind of a one-game phenom last year? He had outside of the Georgia game, he had one SEC game with over 80 receiving yards. He only had 4 receiving touchdowns in SEC play. He had 4 outside of SEC play in non-conference play. Excuse me, he had 3 touchdowns in SEC play, 5 outside of SEC play.
Sure.
How much, maybe a part of it is, he had the crazy game where he went sicko mode, which was insane. He was one of the most important parts of why Alabama won that game against Georgia. I got to see it in person as I internally cheered for Georgia, not Alabama. But how much of the way we have viewed him this year, the expectations are in part because he was a freshman. He was 17 last year. He was the cover athlete. We expected him to be the face of college football. And now maybe he just didn't have the crazy, insane game that he had against Georgia.
What about externally?
I mean,
Did what I had to do.
you can keep telling yourself that. I think that's part of it. We probably overhyped our expectations because watching him, there clearly is some holes in his game. I think right now it's just clear, and this could change, or it's at least clear to me. This is my opinion of him. He's kind of your flashy, big play wide receiver, but he's not he's the opposite of Jeremy Bernard, who's the guy that has the really extensive route tree, who can do all the dirty work, who blocks really well and stuff like that. The guy that you can go to time after time after time. Ryan Williams just isn't a reliable target. He's the guy you throw the deep shot to, or the fade ball to, but he's not the gets 8 targets a game guy wide receiver right now.
Yeah. He only had 8 less receptions, and he only played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games this year.